This is Plant-Based Briefing. Can we safely use aluminum foil, bottles, and pots? By Dr. Michael Greger at nutritionfacts.org. And I'm Marian Erickson. This is the curated content plant-based podcast where I narrate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. Think of it as your daily dose of inspiration to stay the course with your compassionate, healthy lifestyle. And now let's get to today's Plant-Based Briefing. Can we safely use aluminum foil, bottles, and pots? By Dr. Michael Greger at nutritionfacts.org. Over the last decades, the toxicity of aluminum for humans has been heavily discussed and is still not completely clarified. Those occupationally exposed to aluminum, for instance in smelter plants, suffer from oxidative stress and free radicals that can damage their DNA. What about just using aluminum cookware? Articles like Metal Exposures from Aluminum Cookware, an Unrecognized Public Health Risk in Developing Countries, suggested an unrecognized public health risk limited to the developing world where cookware is made in informal shops by casting liquid aluminum melted from a collection of scrap metal, including the likes of vehicle radiators, lead batteries, and computer parts, which is how you can get so much lead leaching into people's food. Then, the relationship between plasma aluminum content, lymphocyte DNA damage, and oxidative status in persons using aluminum containers and utensils daily was published, suggesting that aluminum itself may be harmful. Most of our aluminum exposure comes from processed junk food containing aluminum additives, including those within some processed cheeses, baking powders, cake mixes, frozen dough, and pancake mixes. However, about 20% of the daily intake of aluminum may come from aluminum cooking utensils, such as pans, pots, kettles, and trays. Might this cause a problem? Researchers took blood from consumers who used aluminum cookware versus those who did not, and found that not only did the aluminum users have twice the level of aluminum in their blood, but they had more free radical damage of their body fats and proteins. What's more, the total antioxidant capacity of the bloodstream of those using aluminum cookware was compromised, so they suffered significantly more DNA damage. Indeed, those with the highest levels of aluminum in their blood tended to suffer significantly more damage to their DNA, no surprise, since aluminum is considered to be a pro-oxidant agent. These folks weren't just casually using aluminum pots, though. Specifically, they use them every day to cook and store acidic foods like yogurt and tomato sauce, which can leach out more aluminum. But even using camping dishes, which tend to be aluminum since it's so light, for just 1 week could greatly exceed the tolerable weekly intake guidelines, especially for children, if you've incorporated something acidic, like marinating a fresh catch in lemon juice. Once in a while won't make much difference, but these findings suggest that you may not want to cook in aluminum day in and day out. What about aluminum drinking bottles? They're nice and light, but children drinking 2 cups a day of tea or juice from them could exceed the tolerable aluminum exposure limit. So, out of an abundance of caution, safety authorities like the German Federal Institute for Risk Assessment recommend that consumers avoid the use of aluminum pots or dishes for acidic or salted foodstuffs, such as applesauce, rhubarb, tomato puree, or salt herring, thus prophylactically avoiding the unnecessary ingestion of aluminum. What about aluminum foil? Wrapping and baking food in aluminum foil is a common culinary practice. The concern is that this could represent a potentially hazardous source of aluminum in the human diet. When put to the test, there was leakage of aluminum from the foil to the food, but the amount was so small that it would be more of an issue for small children or those suffering from diminished kidney function. What about just wrapping food in foil to store it in the refrigerator? Only marginal increases in aluminum are seen, except when the food is in contact with the foil and, at the same time, certain other types of metal, such as stainless steel, which is largely iron. That sets up a battery and can lead to tremendous food aluminum concentrations. For example, the aluminum levels in a ham before and after a day covered in foil are negligible. There's hardly a bump in the foil-covered ham. But if that same foil-wrapped ham sits on top of a steel tray or a serving plate for a day, the aluminum levels in the ham shoot up. Finally, you know how aluminum foil is often glossy on one side and dull on the other? Which would be worse? Fresh fillets were baked and grilled both ways, wrapped with the glossy side out versus the dull side out, and no significant difference was found. I've discussed aluminum in antiperspirants, food, medications, and tea. Check out the related posts linked below. Summary: those working in industries involving aluminum like smelter plants face oxidative stress and DNA damage due to exposure to aluminum, which can be detrimental to their health. The use of aluminum cookware, especially in developing countries where it's often made from scrap metal containing contaminants like lead, can lead to significant aluminum leaching into food, posing a potential health risk. Regular use of aluminum cookware correlates with elevated aluminum levels in the blood, increased free radical damage to body fats and proteins, compromised antioxidant capacity, and higher rates of DNA damage, suggesting potential health hazards. Cooking or storing acidic foods, like tomato sauce or yogurt, in aluminum cookware can exacerbate aluminum leaching, emphasizing the importance of avoiding such practices, particularly for daily use. And besides cookware, processed foods containing aluminum additives contribute significantly to daily aluminum intake. Drinking from aluminum bottles, particularly for children, can also exceed safe exposure limits, prompting cautionary recommendations from safety authorities. You just listened to Can We Safely Use Aluminum Foil, Bottles, and Pots? By Dr. Michael Greger at nutritionfacts.org, and I'm your host, Marian Erickson. If you're interested in a couple related episodes, I'll link these in the show notes, but check out 727, our aluminum, stainless steel, cast iron, and Teflon safe by Dr. Michael Greger at nutritionfacts.org, and 83 and 84, Cast Iron Cooking for Vegans by Brigitte Jem at veganfamilykitchen.com, and 906, our melamine dishes and polyamide plastic utensils safe by Dr. Michael Greger at nutritionfacts.org. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.